Daniel Jones got a 4-year, $160 million contract, basically getting $40 million a season. All I know is Daniel Jones has more playoff wins than Derek Carr, yes, but what he's done on the field statistically hasn't necessarily been the most impressive throughout his career. So, Kyle, in your opinion, how do you feel about Daniel Jones making more money than Derek Carr yearly?
Well, I'd have to say Daniel Jones is quite the winner here, but I think the guy who deserves the most credit from this whole situation is Daniel Jones's agent. He's the one that's making moves and literally pulling out miracles for Daniel Jones. Because as far as I see it, Daniel Jones statistically in his career had his best year this past season. Now, granted, when you compare him to some top tier quarterbacks, there's no discussion to be had. There's a level of probably 2 to 3 tiers on where Daniel Jones is compared to somebody like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, guys of that magnitude. But I do like the fact that he does have Brian Dable in the system in New York. And I think when it comes to the relationship that Brian and Daniel are going to have over the next couple of years, I think it's going to be a productive one. And this may be a situation where Daniel Jones will progressively get better in the NFL as long as Brian is there, because it seems like Brian was able to get the best out of Daniel Jones this past season. But when it comes to Daniel Jones specifically in the contract that he received, $40 million a year is a little steep for me. More than likely for me, I would have been comfortable somewhere around $30 million a year. If you want to build some incentives to get it up to 35, I'm cool with that. But the way that they have this contract structured, if he were to hit all of his incentives consistently throughout the contract, he could potentially almost make 190 to 195 million dollars throughout the length of the contract. He would have to hit the incentives. And if he does that, maybe it's well earned. But when it comes to me specifically, I think they overpaid to get Daniel Jones. Granted, he did have a good year for him last year compared to the rest of the league. It's kind of subpar to average, depending on how you look at it. But the Giants made the playoffs last year. They made it to the divisional round. It looks as if the team is moving in the right direction. But when it comes to Daniel Jones, I think the Giants overpaid a little bit for him. For me, it would have been around $30 million a year. I think anything above that, you're probably overpaying him, but they're taking a risk. They feel like Daniel's their guy, and we'll see what happens over the next couple of years with Daniel Jones being their quarterback of the future.
I can't wrap my head around it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm a Giants hater. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm not happy for him as an individual. Again, your goal is to make it to this level and then get paid. But when we're talking about a realistic standpoint as to what Daniel Jones is worth, according to his statistics and what his performance has been on the field, I'm not going to sit here and say there's a financial limit to what a human being is worth. Again, we're talking about a football player, and you're judged and you are measured by your success. And his best season, like Kyle said, was this year. That's not saying much considering he only had 15 touchdown passes. That's not saying much considering he hasn't necessarily done anything the last few years. Does he have a playoff win? Yes. Most quarterbacks that get this big bag do not. So I will say I understand where the essence of, hey, I'm the first Giants quarterback to win a playoff game since Eli Manning. I'm the first Giants quarterback to go out there and bring us to the playoffs since Eli Manning. I don't know if the Mara family is looking at Daniel Jones and getting Eli Manning vibes, like he's going to grow out of it. He's going to get better slowly. He's going to eventually lead us continuously to the playoffs. We love what he can do with his legs as well. I mean, let's be honest. You guys have no receivers. Kenny Golladay just got cut. Darius Slayton can't stay healthy. Sterling Shepard can't stay healthy. You traded away Kadarius Toney. I mean, the list goes on and on of their ineptitude to keep the receiving core healthy and targets that are available to him. And then we're just going to go down the line of his inconsistencies at the quarterback helm as a whole. I'm not getting how he got $40 million. I'm not understanding how he got that much money. Now, granted, again, I know that this was a big workaround. His signing bonus was $36 million. His guaranteed money isn't as high as Derek Carr's. Derek Carr, I believe, got $100 million guaranteed. Daniel only got 82. But to have this much money and not have a meaningful season with average quarterback numbers that are starter numbers, I can't sit here and be like, you know what, he He earned that contract. I agree with Kyle completely. It's got to be around $30 to $35 million at the most. To get 40, that's crazy to me. So Daniel Jones has got a lot riding on him right now. Like 1,030%, the Giants need to repeat the success they had this year or better for the next 4 years of his contract. Because if they're back in the top 10 of the draft, if they're consistently losing big games because of him, this is going to go down as one of the worst contracts, or should I say worst contract extensions that could have ever been. This is also ineptitude on the Giants front office side. If you had any faith possible of Daniel Jones doing something, you pick up his 5th year. I understand that the years prior he didn't do anything, but this is why most franchises pick up the 5th year to see if there's going to be a reason to give him an extension. I believe if you give him his 5th year was going to be somewhere of maybe $20 to $30 million. I forget the exact number. If they would have given him the 5th, you would have saved yourself $10 million a season, which would have given you an opportunity to do something in free agency. But you had to franchise tag Saquon Barkley, and you're going to have to address the receiver room and the offensive line and maybe some other key pieces that you're going to have to focus on. Giving your up and down quarterback of 25 years old, $40 million a year, isn't something I'm too happy with. So we'll see how this goes. But for Daniel Jones to get the money he got at this stage of his career is just ludicrous to me.